So extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile tells the story of true-life serial killer Ted Bundy as he meets his longtime girlfriend Liz, gets accused of murder, goes through a series of trials, and eventually leads to his execution. Well, it's here, people. The movie that went to Sundance, then eventually got bought by Netflix, was delayed, and then brought right back to this release date. It's here, the Zac Efron Ted Bundy movie. It's a Ted Bundy movie that, it's been pretty widely publicized. There's been a lot of hype behind it, mostly because of the casting of Zac Efron and everybody's curiosity of what he's going to be able to bring to this role, what he's going to be able to bring to a role like this that's a huge departure of where he came from back in High School Musical. And Ted Bundy, I mean, he's the most famous serial killer of all time, arguably. There's very little people out there that don't know who Ted Bundy is. Some of us know more about the details than some of the rest of us. There was a documentary maybe about 6-7 months ago, maybe even a little bit longer than that, where called The Ted Bundy Tapes, and it's the same director that was going to do this movie, which also kind of got everybody hyped a little bit. The guy that delivered this documentary that took the storm of Netflix for a few weeks is going to be delivering a dramatization of everything he just told us. So, it's here. Is the movie any good? Well, starting right off with the positives, let me go ahead and put this to rest right now. The main draw to this movie and the main reason that you should watch it is Zac Efron, and he is awesome in the role of Ted Bundy. This is a guy that, he's one of those actors, he's like Brad Pitt, where he's so fucking good looking that you want to hate him. You want him to be the worst actor in the world because, dude, you already got the looks, you got the abs, you don't need any other talents. You just take that, don't be greedy. But he's a great actor, you know what I mean? Ever since High School Musical, which I never watched, you get to movies like 17 again, you get to movies especially like Neighbors where he shows his comedic value and everything, and this is a good actor. This guy has a damn good career ahead of him, and this movie just solidifies that. I would love to see him take more roles like this, not necessarily, shoehorn himself or kind of stick himself into a rut where he has to play roles like this because he has a lot of range, but I would want to see him show up in a horror movie. I'd want to see him show up in more dramatic films that, or maybe you have a lot of A-list, prominent actors in there and no longer will it say, and Zac Efron. Zac Efron will be in that list and he will feel welcome in that list and won't stand out like a sore thumb. He's damn good in this. He covers all the different bases of Ted Bundy. And if you know anything about Ted Bundy, this is a guy that was a charmer. He had some humor to him, made people laugh. And then obviously, he's this disgusting, evil, shockingly wicked, vile serial killer. And he covers all of those bases in his performance. A lot of it's just through his eyes, too. They introduce you in the bar when he meets Liz, his longtime girlfriend. And in any other movie, you would think this would be a setup to a romantic comedy. This really good-looking guy looking at her, giving her the sexy eyes across the bar. And you want to wait for their little meet cute to happen. Only it's completely opposite in this movie. You get that side of him. You get the humorous side of him, the showman side of him. Whenever he's in court, he decides to represent himself because he's displeased with the morality of his lawyers, basically. All the way down to the certain aspects of the story when they give you hints. I mean, we all know he's guilty, but they give you hints that he might be guilty. They just get certain little eye movements or certain little gestures or ways that he just seems to not really grasp the gravity of the situation, that lack of morality, that lack of empathy there. There's little hints of it. It all comes through because of Zac Efron. So he's the main reason that I think 99% of us wanted to see this movie, and all 99% of you, he's the one thing you will walk away, if nothing else, being very happy with in this film.
Do you remember the night we met?
I also thought Lily Collins did a really good job too. She plays Liz, his longtime girlfriend. This movie's kind of framed to be from her perspective to a degree. I have more thoughts on this I'll get into later in this review, but as far as her performance of this woman, I think she does very well because she has that kind of innocent single mother, looking for this good guy to sweep her off her feet, and in comes Ted Bundy. She has, the goo-goos and the gagas and all the typical stuff you would see in a romantic comedy. Like I was saying, that this movie kind of in any other genre would set itself up to be. But when it comes down to the point of the love of her life being accused of all these ridiculous, heinous crimes, you get to see a different side of her performance and a different side of this character where she's just broken. Her life goes on, but her life doesn't go on. Ted is in a complete other state in his prison trying to call her all the time, and it's just like, it frames the movie almost like her life never leaves this living room, watching the publicized courtroom, watching the things unfold in the news with the sketch artists and the different details of this crime, of this murderer that's out there, that she starts to have suspicions might be Ted, waiting for the phone to ring, wanting the phone not to ring. All these different things really makes it to where you not only sympathize with her, but it just gives her a lot of room to really show the pain of what this woman's life must have been, being in love with the most famous serial killer in history. And I'll say this too, it doesn't really exactly work in this movie's favor that pretty much everybody knows who Ted Bundy is and knows that Ted Bundy was guilty as fuck. There's not really going to be anybody that I know of, except for maybe somebody really small or young that shouldn't probably be watching this movie, is going to watch this film and wonder whether or not Ted Bundy's guilty by the end of it or not. So it works against it a little bit, but I do think the movie does a good job at kind of framing the story around the possibility that Ted Bundy is innocent, in a sense that you're taken on this ride of this guy that admits no guilt, that shouts from the fucking rooftops that he is innocent, that's going to do everything he possibly can to get off and everything he possibly can to get away from these charges and to prove his innocence. The movie frames it around that to the perspective of you trying to figure out, almost like these people in the 70s and the 80s, whether or not this guy was actually guilty or not. You get the side of it that thinks, this is a regular guy, he's a good looking guy, he's got charm, there's no way he could be a serial killer, he doesn't fit the profile. You get everybody else that's going, that dude's creepy as fuck, and he's definitely a narcissist, and he's guilty. So it just kind of, it's an interesting way to watch this story unfold, especially through the performance of Zac Efron, of this guy that gives you all of the visual cues that he would not be a serial killer, which then goes to the main point of the film. All serial killers had somebody or a lot of people in their life that loved them, liked them, knew them, worked beside them, lived next to them, saw them at the post office, sent their kids over to their house for a birthday party or something like that. Very few serial killers walk around with a twirling mustache, holding a knife, looking all fucked up, waiting to kill somebody. They look like you and I. They look like everybody else until that evil comes out. And God forbid you're the one that sees the evil come out.
Defendant, please rise.
For years, I've carried this guilt that I'm to blame for everything. If only I hadn't trusted you.
Promise you'll never leave me, Liz.
It's about another missing girl, isn't it? Ted, did you do it?
No.
Now, as far as mixed elements, going back to Lily Collins and the character of Liz, the longtime girlfriend of Ted Bundy, the one that actually turned in his name upon first suspicions that eventually led to this huge manhunt and led to everything that transpired with Ted Bundy, I feel like the movie does fail a little bit with making the movie framed around her perspective. It's based off of her book. So the screenplay is based off of her perspective from the first place, but whenever they kind of frame the film to somewhat give you the trials of Ted Bundy from the perspective of his girlfriend and how it affects her, it feels like it really just, in the back half of the film, relegates her to this stock character who's just sitting there on the couch, shakingly smoking a cigarette, looking at all the things going on in these courtrooms where he's, winning everybody over. She doesn't know if he's innocent. She feels guilty of maybe he is innocent. There's also the suspicion there. It just doesn't really feel like the movie genuinely comes from her perspective. And if they were genuinely going for that and not really just trying to showcase the performance of Zac Efron, I feel like they slipped up a little bit. I feel like there was a lot more behind the scenes, even if it had to be dramatized a bit, even if they had to work a little bit of fiction in there to show that side of the story. There's aspects of that perspective that feels like it's really missing from this film. I guarantee there was a lot more going on behind the scenes besides her just watching the TV for years and years and years. And then moving into my negatives, which I really just have one, and it's going to be one that a lot of people probably aren't going to agree with because this is a highly publicized case. It's a very famous case. All of the facts have been out there for public record for decades. So it's not like they would have done themselves a lot of favors to go against the facts, but this is a film that literally sticks 100% to the things that they portrayed in the documentary that this director also directed. They recreate scenes from this courtroom verbatim with the same cadence, the same timing and everything. They even show in the credits like half a dozen scenes that you just experienced less than a half an hour ago through the performance of Zac Efron and John Malkovich and some other actors. So it just feels like the movie, to be a successful movie, probably should have shied away from sticking 100% to the facts and sticking 100% to the structure of how that documentary would play out, and just dramatize it a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, show some of the things behind the scenes that isn't public record. Show some of the things that would make the interaction between Ted Bundy and Liz, and Ted Bundy and his eventual wife, Carol. Like, show some of those things that aren't in documentaries, that aren't shown in news footage, that aren't a part of public record, to make this something to give us a reason to watch besides just seeing Zac Efron enact things that most people have known for decades.
Very disturbed, sick individual.
You'll be the first nationally televised trial in history.
You look nice, partner.
I'm disguised as an attorney today.
I get very scared, but, you know, he's also really dreamy.
And again, I know I'm kind of getting myself into trouble with that negative. I mean, this is a film about a guy that murdered, that they know of, 30 plus women. So in a way, is it disrespectful to dramatize certain things about that? Absolutely, but at the same time, you're making a film for profit off of a serial killer. So it's like, where is that morality gray line, you know what I mean? But just as an entertainment value from a story like this, to watch a film like this kind of unfold and show a new side of this story, or show something dramatized that hasn't been done in a dozen documentaries and you can't look at with the bullet points of Wikipedia, it felt like there was some missed opportunities there to show, if anything, just some of the scenes leading up to Ted Bundy and some of his crimes. They give you like a little tiny hint and a little visual flash of one of his crimes towards the end of the film whenever he eventually starts to confess things, which is good in that moment, but it just feels like there could have been more hints of that throughout the film to kind of balance out that whole thing about, is he innocent or is he not? Because he's not innocent, and everybody that watches this film knows that. So there's not a whole lot of point, in my opinion, of trying to shy away from the facts so much when the facts are out there. They're obvious. We know he's killed everybody every single one of these news flashes that come between all these dramatized scenes that show that there is a killer out there. We know it's Ted Bundy. We know that he did all of it. So show some of the things going on whenever he leaves Liz to go to the store and kills somebody on the way there and comes back later on. Show hints of that. Show different sides of this story that merit a film like this. Otherwise, I would just have the argument that aside from seeing Zac Efron perform in a role like this, there's not a whole lot of point to watch this. Just watch the documentary and you actually see the true evil right there. There's nobody dramatizing anything. That was life. That was it. Oh, and let me say one thing too before my final thoughts. This is not a positive, a negative, it's just a thought that I had. There was a really publicized part of this film, especially in the metal crowd, that James Hetfield, the lead singer and guitarist of Metallica, plays a role in this as the sheriff. And there was a lot of articles when he was casted, there was articles during the production of the film that would always showcase James Hetfield like in the little interrogation room with Zac Efron. There was even an article about a month ago where the director had said how James Hetfield just killed it in the role, building up a lot of hype in the metal community about, damn, James Hetfield's doing a role and he's apparently really good. He's got one fucking line. He's in one scene in this movie where he literally walks into an interrogation room, sets down some evidence, and asks Zac Efron if he's been to a city. That's it. So if you're part of the metal community, temper them expectations down. And all you motherfuckers that put all those articles out there, shame on you. Yeah. So all in all, guys, I think this was a pretty good film. This is not a movie that I probably will ever rewatch again. It's perfectly fine as far as showing the story of Ted Bundy. If you are one of the rare people out there that doesn't really know anything about Ted Bundy, I think this film does a really good job at kind of presenting the facts in a way that might keep you guessing until the end, even though I really don't know who the fuck wouldn't know Ted Bundy's guilty. But I think this movie exists and it will be remembered only because of Zac Efron's performance. And as far as in his career, it will be a very important film for his career and where he hopefully eventually goes, because I think he deserves to get more roles like this and better productions and bigger productions. But I don't see this being like a staple. I don't see this being on anybody's shelves if it ever comes to Blu-ray. I don't see anybody like rewatching this all the time. It's just something that is out there to show what a great actor Zac Efron is. So if nothing else, you accomplish that.
The killings were extremely wicked, shockingly evil, vile.
Did you do these things, Ted?
This is all gonna end.
It's only gonna end with the truth.
So if you have a lot of intrigue towards Ted Bundy, his crimes, the courtroom, how everything played out, maybe some of the people in his life, that those other documentaries, including the recent one by the same director, could not satisfy, definitely check this one out. It's worth seeing to show what Zac Efron can do in a role like this. But if you're somebody that knows all the facts, this movie's not going to present anything new for you. So if you have no interest in seeing Zac Efron act, then you really don't have any reason to check this out. Conveniently enough, this is a Netflix exclusive, so check it out on Netflix. Stream it. So what did you guys think of Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile? Is this a movie that you've been anticipating for a long time? Did you have doubts about Zac Efron? Were you really championing him and knowing he could do great in this role? Do you feel like the movie should have dramatized more things behind the scenes that these documentaries haven't already told us? Or do you feel like it should stick 100% to the facts, don't show anything that we don't know, and just show what is public record and has been public record for decades? So what did you guys think of Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile? Are you a fanatic of serial killers and you've researched Ted Bundy and you know all the different facts? Are you somebody that's walking into this blind that maybe didn't know who Ted Bundy was? Are you somebody that feels like they should have dramatized things more, maybe showed more behind the scenes and things that didn't become public record? Do you feel like that they did best to just follow the Wikipedia bullet points of this case? Let me know down below. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. If you guys want to check out my social media links, you can check down below for the video description for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Spreadshirt for Cody Leach t-shirts, other cool merchandise designed by the great Woody Bowen, and my Patreon page, which is a great way to give back to this channel and help this channel grow while getting cool exclusive content for your eyes only, such as Blu-ray digital copy codes, review requests depending on what tier you subscribe to, and exclusive things like commentaries and polls that I give straight to my patrons to help shape what this channel does in the future. So check all that out, guys. And if you want to check out some more of my reviews and other videos, including rankings, top fives, all that good shit, you can check that out by clicking right over here.